Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Haley, happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday, Dan.
It's a sad week this week.
Okay.
Well, it's a happy Saturday, but with...
It was a little manic, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there were a lot of sad things that happened this past week. I found out I'm allergic to mayo.
Okay.
Mayonnaise.
I thought maybe you were going to bring up the Queen. I don't know.
Oh. Now I feel small and petty than normal. But no, yes. I mean, that was bad too. But let's get back to mayo. I love mayo. I can't tell you how much I love mayo. And I don't know what's happened. But all of a sudden, out of the blue, it causes distress and pain. And I don't enjoy that.
No.
And
Do you have a stew?
No. I don't know what to do about it. I feel like there's so many empty parts of my life now that mayo's not a part of it.
Don't eat it is what you do.
But the other people at the table eat it. And that's the thing that's really, I think we should all take one for the team here.
This is going to sound gross to some people, maybe.
Maybe,
but
probably not.
As a person that couldn't have mayonnaise for a long time as well.
Yeah.
Because I was allergic to it, supposedly.
Yeah.
Ranch as a replacement.
Yeah, I'm using that because it's white too. There are a lot of other things in the fridge that are white, but I've tried ranch. It's not mayo.
It's not the same.
I know.
But...
Yes, and I'm sorry about the Queen too. I don't know if she liked mayo or not.
Or I think there are
matter.
Vegan options
for
mayo.
See,
you
that's
could have
a bridge too far.
A fake mayo.
No. I'll just gut through the pain and the misery.
Oh, you're still going to eat it.
Yeah, I'll enjoy my spoonfuls of mayo just like I used to.
God.
That's how I go to bed at night. Anyway, let's get on with the show. We've got all kinds of things planned. We're going to be on the phone with Zach Krieger from Ayers Basement Systems talking about whole home power in the event of
a power outage.
A power outage, yeah. So, yeah, I don't even need to explain any more about that.
It's a generator.
Really feel like I want to because it's my way. But, yeah, that says it all. And then we're going to keep Zach on the phone is the intent. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about all the different things that Ayers Basement Systems offers. I really think they need to change their name. They cover so many different things.
Yeah, they've expanded so much in a different territory that basement doesn't really encompass.
No, concrete, leveling, electrical, plumbing, all kinds of different things. We're going to talk about that because they can be a great solution for a number of different problems that we all deal with in our homes.
Exactly.
But right now, let's talk about problems in the home. I've talked about my problem,
with
a
mayo.
Fridge full of mayo that Dan can't eat. Let's talk about Haley's problem, cabinets that you painted, which was yay, right? And then hated the color, which was boo.
Sad.
Not so sad, not so happy. So talk about this a minute because there's so many interesting things here. And there's all lessons that we can all learn from this.
Yep.
And the first lesson, I think, that's really off of our script is listening to what we have said would have been a good idea for you. Because you broke a number of different rules.
I did.
Or ideas or suggestions.
I rushed it. I think it all breaks down when you don't really follow the process.
Yeah. So talk about, just give everybody a background about what happened. You're working on your garage. We've talked about that.
Yes.
All of a sudden you find out your husband's got to go away like a business trip thing, right?
Yep, he's going to be out of town over the weekend. And so I think, well, I've got the kitchen I could work on. It's been in the back of my mind for a while now. I've really wanted to change it since I moved into the house. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm kind of on pause. I need someone else there to do the rest of the garage. So I really need some solo project. And I had some paint. So I thought I could just paint the cabinets this weekend and I'll have a completely new kitchen when he comes home and that'll be great.
Right. So you got that going on. I think it's really funny too that you also mentioned that you had some family coming over.
Yes.
That same weekend. So you thought in your mind, this is
okay, I'm going to do this in the next 24 hours. And it's going to be great.
Everybody's going to love my new kitchen. Well, it turns out you put the color on. You had sampled some colors ahead of time. So at least you'd done that much.
Yep.
And you thought you knew what you wanted. You got halfway through and realized, I don't like this green.
Terrible.
You went with the color of the year from Benjamin Moore. That's important. That comes up later.
October Mist, which is normally, it's a good color. I've used it in other spaces and I've really liked it a lot. did not follow my own advice in that I didn't specifically sample it in my kitchen space. I just kind of trusted that it would work because I've used it elsewhere.
Okay, that's news to me. Wait a minute now. So you didn't even look. I knew you sampled the colors, and I knew you didn't put it on the cabinet doors.
I sampled other colors on the cabinet.
But you didn't actually even look at it in the space?
I took a piece of something that had October Mist
man.
on it.
Okay, so
in this space.
And how did that work out for you? You didn't like it at all?
No, it looked completely different. Not at all like October Mist should look in my mind.
Right.
And
so you made some changes, found another green, right? I mean, you're depressed a little bit. You're frustrated, disappointed. Let's say that.
Disappointed because they're painted.
It's not I can't eat mayo level of depression.
Sure.
It's just disappointment, right?
And normally I don't make these big color mistakes too, so it's, it was a hit to the ego.
That's why I'm really dwelling on it, because I really like to, put the spotlight on this. Anyway, you found a new green, got the paint for that, put that on the rest of the cabinets, painted the whole thing. Yes. Everything's painted with this new green.
Yes, because I sampled some other greens.
And you still don't know that you love it.
Yeah, I think
so funny.
Green might be just not the right color in general, like any green.
Okay.
I always had this image in my mind
that
my cabinets were going to be green.
Yep.
I've just always loved like minty, sagey greens on cabinets, even before it was really popular. That's just like a bonus now. And I didn't even really consider other colors because that's just what was in my head as that's what's happening.
Okay, so that's the scoop. That's what's going on. And right now you're on pause. You're looking at that, trying to decide. All right. So now let's look at that and then distill various lessons from that everybody can take advantage of. And, as much fun as I'm trying to have with this, because it is kind of funny that you screwed up the color thing. That really cracks me up.
Yeah, I just like to rub that in.
I live in that zone. It's fun to see you do this. And I guess that's one thing I want to point out is a lot of us make those mistakes. And the tendency is to think after one or two of those, sometimes just after one,
right.
I'm not good at this, right? I'm not good at the whole DIY thing. And that's really not the case, because you would consider yourself good at the DIY stuff.
Yes, and I would consider myself like a color expert. So everyone makes mistakes.
Right. So that's the first thing. Just there are ways to work around it, right? So let's talk about that. And the very first lesson that I think we can pull from this is just it really reinforces the necessity of slowing down.
Right.
We talked about it on previous segments, on previous shows, where the idea comes to paint the bedroom this weekend. Don't go and paint the bedroom this weekend unless you've really prepped ahead of time.
Well, it's hard because when we have the energy to do something, it's like it doesn't come around that often, right? So you want to use it while you have it and just get it done. And you have this image in your head of something looking completely different within a short amount of time, because that is like the beauty of paint. But ultimately, you make a lot of mistakes because you've rushed into something that you haven't planned a lot for.
And that was your problem. It wasn't so much that, you had planned.
But not a lot.
You hadn't planned enough. And so I guess there's so many things to think about. The main thing is just understand it's really important to slow down. Kind of connected to that is if you're anticipating a project.
Yeah.
This fall, I'm going to probably paint the bedroom. Or this winter, we're going to get this done. Or next spring. And if you've got a project like that, and if choosing color is part of that project, you don't have that nailed down yet, start working on it right now, because you don't know. Maybe 3 weeks from now, something opens up. A painter that you had tried to get all of a sudden has an opening, and now you've got to have a decision.
Right.
You don't want to be in that spot where you're like where you were. Exactly. I kind of have an idea, but I haven't nailed it down, and now I've got to make a quick choice, and I can really make a wrong decision.
Exactly.
Start now, no matter how far ahead the projects are, picking your colors, getting your inspiration, sampling your colors.
Yeah, give yourself time to make the mistakes ahead of time so that you're not wasting a bunch of money and time when you're actually trying to do it.
And that way, if you do have a weekend like you had, you can jump in and you're ready for it.
Exactly.
Lesson one. Second one, then we'll take a break, and we'll wrap it up on the other side. Second lesson, let's talk about the pros and cons of color trends, right?
Right.
Because a lot of the times
use October Mist.
Right. And a lot of times, if we haven't made choices, and this wasn't your situation, but if we haven't made color choices and we decide I'm painting a room this weekend, the very first thing we always hear in the store is what's popular right now?
Yeah. What are other people
doing? What's the color of the year?
Yep.
And the idea is that, well, if it's popular, if it's the color of the year, if it's a color trend, it's going to work in my space.
Right,
It'll
just
be fine.
automatically.
That's not how it works.
No.
You used the color of the year and it didn't work in your space at all. It looked terrible.
It looked terrible, which doesn't mean that it's a bad color. It was just not the right color for my space.
In that room, because you have that same
Yes.
color in other parts of the home.
Right, and it's fine. But it was not right for my kitchen, and that happens all the time. The color of the year is not the silver bullet where it's just automatically going to work in every situation. That'd be great, but that's just not how color works. Really, it's meant to be a jumping off point. That greens that are gray and sagey are a trend in general. October Mist is a great version of that. However, if you're going with that direction, you should really be sampling multiple types of green with similar undertones, but that give you a range so you can find the right one for your specific space.
Yeah, the color of the year, it's a jumping off point, not a reason to jump off of something. So yeah, don't take it so literally. Remember that. All right, that's going to be all I think we can cram into that segment. Should we take a break? Are you willing to hang around?
I have to.
It's your job.
so.
You're going to be here. All right, we'll talk about the rest of the lessons Haley learned and that we can all take advantage of after she made her huge color mistake in her kitchen. We'll do all of that on the other side of the break. Stay tuned. And we're back. And Haley, we're talking about your kitchen. You painted your kitchen cabinets, kind of spur of the moment.
Yep, I rushed it.
Didn't like the color. And we all know what that feels like.
Yes.
And if we haven't been in that situation, we most likely
will
be.
eventually.
Right. And it's a horrible feeling. You know, you get this room done or you get it partway done. You've expended money on paint. You've put in time, energy, all of that. And you're looking at it thinking, I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, you've hired it done. So now you've paid to have somebody.
Yes.
All of these things can happen. And we're looking at these colors and sometimes hating them. And we know what that feels like. It's miserable. So we're trying to prevent that. We can't necessarily fix it or sponge it away once it's happened. Once it's happened, we got to just soldier on like good little soldiers, right? Like I have to do now that I can't eat mayonnaise on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Turns out I'm allergic. I'm going to have to soldier on. So will you regarding your kitchen. But we can learn things from it and hopefully make adjustments and not find ourselves in that situation. We've been talking about some of those lessons. The third one that we want to talk about is just the importance of listening to your space. And it's kind of an out there concept. And we talked about it, but let's talk about what we're really getting at and then how practically we can listen to our spaces.
We talked about the same thing with my dining room, but
that time you listened though, right?
I did listen that time. I did not listen this time. And that's, I think, one of the problems that I ran into. But what it means really is not forcing an aesthetic onto a space that really isn't right for it. So if you've got a Victorian house with all of this character and you want something that looks sleek and modern, it's probably not gonna fulfill those expectations.
Right. You're gonna constantly be struggling against it. You know, I think about the all white interior look that was really big, is still kind of big. We see it still a lot. And there's aspects of it that I like. But my home, it's just not its thing. It's just not going to pull it off.
No.
And I could try it, and I will have some success. But it's not going to feel like what I thought it was going to feel like.
Exactly.
And that can be a problem. And that's what you had with the kitchen, because you love green. You always wanted it on the cabinets.
Yep. And I just didn't really look at my specific situation close enough to realize that the kitchen was really asking for a warmer color in that space. It's an east-facing room. Typically, warmer colors are going to do much better in that type of light because it amplifies the red-orange light that you already have coming into that space. Cool colors are going to be dulled way, way down to where they look kind of dead in that
That's
light.
what you ended up with.
Exactly, which is exactly what happened.
You have this green on the cabinets. It's the color of the year, October Mist, and you said it looks dingy. It almost looks dirty.
Yes.
It's just a gross green.
You said dead fish.
Yeah.
It's just not
I have a way with words.
good.
All right. So you've got to listen to your space. How do you do that? You pay attention to the architectural elements. You pay attention to what's going on. You've got some heavy trim, it feels like. You know, really dark, rich red, wood-stained trim. You've got to adjust to that, or at least work with that, or change that if you can. And it's a combination of things. Certain things can be painted over and somewhat changed. Certain elements are never going to go away.
Yeah.
And you're better off to change your aesthetic or your target than to try to make the house fit
like
something.
Force it.
That it's not going to. So be aware of that. It can really cause some trouble. The next lesson, we can be brief on this one because we've already hit a fair amount of it and we talk about it all the time. But it's the value of sampling colors in the space that you're working with, on the surface that you're going to be painting, and in a large enough scale that you can get a good idea of it.
Right. I think a lot of times people just do like a few little brush strokes on the wall and they call it good. Now it's sampled, but really that sample isn't much bigger than the architectural sheets that we just give away. And that's not a big enough sample size for you to actually get an accurate depiction of that color. Your eye is still factoring in all of the surroundings, and you actually don't physically see the color the way that it's going to look when it's bigger.
Right. You can get a half pint sample can of any Benjamin Moore color, super inexpensive, and it will do a large enough area that you'll get a good view of the color.
Yep.
It's really important. It will save you a lot of potential struggles down the road.
I would have been completely saved.
All right. So the next one, lesson 5. If you're not in love with the results, what do? You know, the tendency is to want to panic. But we're going to say take a deep breath and hit pause as much as you can.
Yeah, I had a really hard time not just immediately buying a new gallon of paint and a new color on Monday morning just to get it painted again.
And so many people do. But the problem is now you basically create the same mistakes and the same series of mistakes all over again.
Exactly.
You rush into the next step. You jump into a new color. You buy new paint. You put that on, which you did. You actually did kind of make up your own.
Yes.
Yeah, you got your new color and you're still not completely sure about it.
Yeah.
So take that pause, right? Now, that doesn't mean you always can. You recommend putting the room back together even.
Yes,
that's
kind of what I did. Like, after I repainted the cabinets completely with this different green, even though I knew afterwards that I wasn't sold on it 100%, I knew that I really needed to hit pause and just live with the color for a minute, figure out what wasn't working, why it didn't feel right, so that I had more information when I actually need to go back and paint again.
Right, and the whole thing is, it may not feel right just because the room's in disarray. The room's not put back together yet. And, you know, if you've got painting supplies all over the place, we've had people do that. I've done that. I've got drop cloths all over the place and cans on the counter and whatever. Now I'm upset that the cabinets don't look great. Well, nothing looks great with all that's there. At least clean off some of that. Get a good look at it.
Yeah.
And I know it's not fun to pause, but it's way better than rushing into the next stage of things.
And just making the same mistake all over again.
Making the mistake again. So that's that lesson. Last one. We've got about a minute to go. We'll make it quick. If you do decide it's time to pull the plug, it's time to start over. We're not going to probably shouldn't say pull the plug. That feels kind of...
Start over.
It's not a good week for pulling the plug.
Oh my gosh.
If it's time to start over, let's make sure we get it right. And we'll just move on, Haley. Don't even stop and laugh about that. We'll just keep moving. How do you make sure you get it right? Well, you come into the store, any RepcoLite or Port City Paints, and let us help you.
Yes.
Bring in pictures of your space.
Pictures of the target, you know, what you were hoping for.
Yeah, what you were shooting for. Bring in your paint. That will help us determine what's exactly going on. You know, we'll know exactly the color you're working with, how it, you know, comes out in the paint that you've got.
Well, and make sure that it's actually accurate, too. Maybe the problem was that the paint literally didn't tint correctly.
Yeah, who knows? But at least that will give us something to work with.
Exactly.
Maybe we can change it. Sometimes we can. Sometimes we can't. All of that will be just great information. And then talk to a color consultant and we'll get you on the right path.
Right.
Give you some ideas, maybe some samples, maybe some new paint, but we'll get you started, or at least continuing.
On a better path.
Yeah. All right. It happens to everybody. It happened to Haley.
Even
and
me.
There's a way through it. Don't freak out. I know it's frustrating, but it can get to good.
Yes.
All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll be on the phone with Zach Krager from Ayers Basement Systems talking about basically standby generators.
Yeah.
That's all just ahead. Stay tuned.